Hi, this is BZ, and I'm having a conversation with Jeanie tonight. It's December 30th. Things are moving fast and flowing beautifully. How's it going, Jeanie?
Wonderful. How are you?
I'm good. I'm very good. I'm actually thrilled because I'm looking out the window, and where I am, it's 4:44 Pacific time, and it's still light out. You know, I mean, not really light, but to me, that's very exciting.
Wonderful. Just before we get into the call, there's a little bit of kind of like a pitter-patting sound that's coming through that wasn't coming through before.
Yeah, the pitter-patter is a cute little tri-colored boy who lives with me who likes the energy when we play in these calls. So the first thing he does is he picks up a squeaky toy, and he kind of runs around going, "Yay, they're going to play again."
Oh, that's awesome.
So that's
Keegan. Love that. Oh. You know, my son has a white, I think he's a white husky, and he's got like ice blue eyes, and he named him Lupo, which means wolf in Italian, because he wanted a little wolf, but you know, Lupo. So I was over there hanging out with Lupo and John earlier, and Tim. So yeah, I love puppies.
Yeah, this guy, he's actually well, all animals are, but he's magical, and he knows it, and he's very good at reading energy and then using his own to change situations. So, you know, enhance, if somebody's happy and having fun, enhance that fun and magicalness like he's doing right now. or you know, to help calm someone if they're upset or sad or something like that. So yeah, he's actually really good at that.
Well, tell him I said thank you.
So what's up with you? What are you doing and noticing and playing with these days?
You know, being holiday week, I was blessed to have all of my kids together. My son came in from Colorado, and it was usually when we get together, we end up just laughing hysterically, and and we always have a good time. But this time there was some intensity. Just people, like two of my kids were just kind of, one was saying something, the other one's feelings got hurt, and just kind of interesting watching the dance of the energies. And everybody they had the ability to easily shift into their hearts, and it was just all in all after, in the aftermath, it was such a peaceful, joyful, aware, just got to listen to some of the music that my son shared with me, Medicine for the People in Naco, and just some of the wonderful lyrics that come through that music. And it was just great to see that my children, as grown adults, are settled into their own knowing and their own ability to center themselves. And it just was a very deeply satisfying experience for me as a mom to have that interaction in those relationships, and to see the fruit of the beauty of who we all are, but in specific who they are and we are together. So it was very wonderful, wonderful, wonderful holiday.
Very cool. Yeah. Well, it is rewarding for you, because it helps to reflect back for you that support and that the safe space to actually come from your heart and not just your head, and not, kind of the elbowing other people out of the way kind of mentality that's often rewarded rather than anything else. So yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah, and the habitual, just growing up in certain societal circles, and the habits of thinking and being of the shoulds and this and that, and it was really good to see that even though that still can come up from time to time, it's most prevalent and easy for them to be in their heart. It's like they'll go to that space for a moment and they'll realize, oh, that doesn't matter. That's that's no consequence. That's just, we love each other. Just it's all good. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
And do they do that, outwardly, or is that something that you're? I mean, obviously you can tell that from being part of the conversation and being an observer because the energy shifts and the conversation shifts. But do you feel that kind of like it's a mechanism, conscious or unconscious, within them where they're almost catching themselves, as you say, to flow in a more expansive direction?
Yes, yeah, they're definitely catching themselves and flowing in an expansive direction.
Cool.
Yeah, very cool.
And have they always done it? I'm just curious because I know that right now things are changing so fast and the energies are expanding so fast, and actually in the next 24 hours or a smidge over that, the speed at which they're changing right this moment will seem slow as molasses because we're gonna really jump up in the next 30 hours or so. So I go even faster. So I was just curious because there are a number. I'm watching different interactions. People that I know fairly well, people that I don't know at all. Some people that I just kind of know on a kind of a cursory acquaintance level, and there are lots of things coming up for people, and some may say, well, X happened and I'm feeling whatever, but a lot of times it's they don't even know. Sometimes it's like somebody put itching powder in their socks or something, and they don't realize. It's that kind of restless, antsy kind of thing.
Well, I will say that I think it's faster than it has been previously. And there was kind of an instantaneous shift. Like my daughter had gone out for a walk and it was dark out, and she came back. She said, "This dad told me if I ever had this feeling that I needed to pay attention to it," and she got spooked about something. So she came back and she was clearly extremely distressed and fearful, and like, she asked us to pray for her, which was it was extreme. She was not in a good space in that moment.
Uh-huh.
And I just took a breath and I said, "Sweetheart, just go to the love in your heart now." And she stopped and she came over and sat down on my lap, and I gave her a hug, and she put her head on mine. And I just sat there and held her, and she apparently started weeping, and she dripped a tear on my face. And I kind of giggled, and I said, "Raindrops keep falling on my head." And it made her laugh, and I just sat there and held her, and she got up, and she was good as new. It was like literal night and day. It was amazing to witness.
Great. And how old is she?
She's 29.
29. Okay. Yeah. And did she give you any indication of what had happened when she was for a walk? Or I mean, you don't have to go into a lot of details. I was just curious because I wanted to mention something else after you.
Okay. No, she just said that she had a feeling.
Yeah.
And she said, that her dad told her whenever she has that feeling, like of I don't know, impending doom, I guess, would be one way to describe it. But just that, warning in your gut that says there's
right.
something not right here.
Right.
So she just, listened to it and came back. And, yeah, she was, I think it was more of an energetic shaking. I don't think she didn't say anything about somebody being there or anything that bothered her. So.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things that, you're mentioning this, and then there have been several others recently that I've had direct experience of having a story, recounted to me about something going on, and then others where I've heard, not absolutely firsthand because I wasn't right there, but but had talked about with them afterwards. So what I'm saying, and then read other accounts as well. So one of the things that people are noticing, perhaps, or continue to be oblivious and things kind of get dicey from there, is that as the energies shift and we really are fully in the what's the metaphor is of the two worlds split, there are energies not only from physical beings on the planet, but entities as well that some are non-physical, some can move in and out because their predominant place where they reside and the frequency is the fourth dimensional. So and lower fourth at that rate. So sketchy energies and
yeah. And I would say absolutely that she did encounter something like that, because she said something else, like she was in fear of like mortal doom in that moment. Like she thought she would perish. That's how she was coming across to me in that moment.
Yes,
like,
and I would take that literally.
Yes, and literally, I felt like that's where she was at. She thought she was going to die.
Well, but what I'm saying is the energy I'm reading is that I would take that literally. So, in other words, what she was saying, she was very accurate on that.
I know. Yes.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So that's interesting that other people are encountering that right now. That's very interesting.
Yes. And one of the things, the reasons that I bring it up is because with the energies and the true world split, and again, it's a metaphor. It's, someone's not taking Gaia and cutting her in half, but it's an energy. But when you hold that predominant energy, frequency, vibration, that's a lower vibration. That's more of a 3D. That's kind of pulling the pillow over your head, or resisting your own inner knowings, your own inner nudges, or just sometimes flirting there because you tend to go on the more doubtful or self-doubt or worry or anger or fear kind of thing. Right. So anything that's not love and intentionally flowing love, so that you're intentionally holding the highest frequency vibration that you can at that moment. But when you do that, or when you're playing in that, there are lots of neighbors in that neighborhood, in that energetic neighborhood, so to speak. Yeah. And what's happening now is that it's really intensifying. And so a lot of people are noticing that these things are occurring. They have a feeling, very acute feeling and a sense of something, or they might kind of have that and then also get a physical inclination, or they might look at something or someone and actually see perhaps a shadow, or, that's more than just, a shadow of a building or something like that. Or actually a physical human being where when they look at them, something about them changes. So the way that they look at their physical features, or the way that their eyes or the mouth area changes and stuff. And that's, very common now. And again, that's because there is such a polarity in those energy frequencies and fields. There's two worlds, basically. And the one that's lower vibration is it's actually getting more, I'm trying to think of the right term to use, more dense and more solidified down in those lower frequencies as the rest of the energies are rising. And so it is just more difficult, more uncomfortable, and more noticeable, all the things that go with those lower vibrations. It's almost like there's some movies actually that have done a good example of this, but it's like there's a bleed through. So in other words, the what's bump in the night goes bump in the night and the daytime, and you can see it.
Oh, okay. All right. That's interesting. Years ago when I was having my born-again Christian experience, I heard of an author, I think his name was Frank Peretti, and I read this book of his called, one of them was The Prophet. I did not read that one, but this was something about the darkness. And it was a story, it was a novel that talked about this small town and their experience, and, you know, in the non-visible realm, the demons and the angels and the, you know, the whole spiritual warfare aspect of what was going on behind the scenes of political landscape or whatever, you know, these people were going through. So it's pretty interesting to think of, you know, I mean, when you were saying that, it's like the visual that I got in my mind when I was reading that book came back to mind.
Yes.
It's like, wow.
And oftentimes when people have that, you might say, that creative spark to write that, they may either intentionally know that this is something that is so, and by writing it kind of as a quote-unquote fiction, right, it's helpful to spread awareness and let people understand that. Or if they kind of dreamed it up, there's it's more than just from a linear perspective, you know, oh, I had this cool idea to write a scary, chilly story kind of a thing. There's more to that because there's more to us. We just may not realize it at that moment when we.
Well, I feel like from this particular author that he was very aware because, I don't know, for me in my experience, I was raised Catholic and then I had this Christian, you know, time. And it was, my eyes were open to a lot of things like that back then. I experienced actual creative miracles where people were getting physically healed and body parts growing, and by time I became aware of the whole demonic presence and the spiritual warfare and all this and that. So, so I know in my heart that this guy was writing it as this is how he sees it as reality. He wasn't just writing some story,
right,
you know, for the sake of the story. He said he was writing it as an illustration of this is what is real in my experience, in my world, in my life, in my belief system. And, you know, some people may have been able to see that and some people may not.
Yeah, and well, they can see it now if they're hanging out in that neighborhood.
Oh boy.
or even, you know, or even kind of driving by that neighborhood, because that's what's happening right now. And it's, in a way, it's really a beautiful thing, because oftentimes it's a shocker. You know, it's like, you know, you mentioned your daughter. I mean, she was really shooken up, and she came to the place where there was comfort and could get out of it very quickly. But I would imagine that she'll have a little bit of reflection on that and saying, you know, so you can oftentimes look at what were the thoughts or feelings or things that you were focusing on either right around that or, you know, in the near vicinity of the time frame to that. And with that shocker, people, it's a choosing. It's a way to go, whoa, what was that? And, you know, the ability to look around and notice all of what's going on and hear those inner nudges, because we're having them all the time, and they may be quiet, but they're getting louder, and you know, they're speeding up. So you might get 20 or 30 a day now if you're not listening, and of course if you are listening, it's just a steady conversation.
Yes, it is, and I know that it is, and I've intentionally kind of tried to personally become more in tune to that conversation, to spirit, and not so much by the truth, or not the truth, but the religious ideas and stuff. Mm-hmm. You know, I've learned to distinguish between the truth that I feel in my heart and, you know, the things that you're told are real and true, but are kind of used for manipulation and control. Right. But I wanted to say something about what you were saying about the neighborhood of these things, you know, and seeing them. That kind of reminds me of what Abraham Hicks talks about in her discs in the vortex, in the different levels of focus or awareness. When you're, and as she calls it, when you're on the angry disc or the fearful disc, or when you're on the happy disc or the bliss disc. I mean, it's a whole different energetic field. And that, when you said that about the neighborhood, that's kind of what came to my mind. In that, okay, well, this is very clearly defining the disc.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And no one does it to us, because we do it to ourselves. We hold that power, whether we realize it or not, or believe in it or not. And one of the simplest ways from a linear perspective to hold that is that your physical reality is a response to you.
Yep, that's right.
And the time frame, to use, again, the linear way of thinking of it, the time frame between you and what your signals you're giving out and the response you get back is really quick.
I know. Oh my gosh.
Which is a great thing, or a whoops.
I know. Oh my gosh. And I'm excited, but I'm like, I'm trying not to let any intrepidation come in, because I know that I've experienced a lot of contrast, and I know I've launched so many rockets for so many desires, so many different just a lot of beautiful, awesome stuff. And I've been very, very resilient. I've gone through a lot of really intense, crushing experiences, but have over and over had the ability to come back to my heart center. And it's really exciting for me to be able to continue to walk through this life that's having these, these things are still there, but I can have this moment where, there's disharmony in my family, or whatever it may be, and in that moment myself choose to stay in my heart and not participate with the drama.
Right.
So it's been really good for me to be able to have already had this practice of centering on a pretty moment-by-moment basis, because, it's been very helpful in keeping me calm and keeping me from, even getting bothered by some things that I've been chronically self-judgmental over. I've been trying to just be a little more gentle and loving with myself, and loving my body for real. Good. Just being appreciative, saying thank you for my beautiful body, and just doing my best to take care of myself in a practical way. And it's eased the feeling around that whole subject too.
Great. Well, one of the things you're bringing up is you're giving a practical illustration of how you actually integrate things. Because that's what you asked me about that before. The integration of these different things. So when you're noticing, as you just described, that conflict or something that's going on, you can notice it. And you can make that moment of choice right there where you stay in your heart. You don't walk or leave what's going on, or brush it aside or hide your head. You notice, but it doesn't light you up. And so that's a good illustration that you've already integrated those things. You can see it. You don't, you may notice yourself clearly saying, right, I see this going on, and I'm not going to play with that right now. I'm not going to dance with that. I'm not going to get entwined or get lit up by that. And then you move through that experience. And that's what the integration is all about. Because if you have a thing where you say, well, la, 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 there's no such thing, or I'm not looking at anything dark or negative or whatever, it's still there. And it's all there and very obvious right at this moment, because it's all crumbling down. And you can't move to a higher frequency vibrational place, as a place to reside, if you don't acknowledge and look at those things. It doesn't mean you have to fully immerse yourself in it. It just simply means to acknowledge all that was part of the all, and that it's there, and you come to terms in whatever way that you want to allow yourself to that, and then you move on. But rather than you can't ostrich it and put your head in the sand and go. That's just wake me up when it's over, because again, that's the lighting up part, and you can't get to where I would imagine that most people want to get to, which is being expansive and having their eye-tech fully come online and being, a creator being in body and knowing it and playing and dancing with it.
That I am so excited to see what that's really going to look like. And what this brought to mind when you were saying all of that is that there came a point in my own experience where I took responsibility. I mean, I was in a situation where I experienced abuse, and one day I just said, I'm just as guilty as my father or my husband. I mean, yes, they were abusive, but I participated. I made choices. I, had my own thoughts and feelings about this. So from that point on, I just took responsibility for my own self, for my thoughts, for my feelings, for my actions, for, whatever. And that enabled me to process the things that happened and to move myself out of the victim mindset and to have the courage to face what I needed to face and to have the freedom to live and move from my own heart and be who I am without fear of of the hammer coming down or whatever, because I choose to do what's right for me, not what religion or society or whatever has told me to do. And something that really clicked in me in that regard, in the freedom of being the fullness of who I am in my heart and soul, and not worrying about any external constructs or illusions or whatever to shame me or judge me or put me in a place and diminish my power. Reading those documents that Heather wrote about Original and how in Original all is permitted. And, there's been abuse of all types in my family and just some of the unthinkable things. And it's been a very painful experience. And you think, I think I can't even fathom how somebody could do something like that to a child. And it just broke my heart and whatever. But, going through the experience of taking responsibility for my own sins, so to speak, I came to a place where I can have compassion for anyone who does anything, because I feel like they are doing the best they can do. Maybe they were victimized as a child. Maybe they didn't have the, whatever. So in having my own experience of self-liberation and having that document that she so beautifully put together, and just the clarity of what that really means and who we really are and the power of the truth of that. It's just so, I feel like, did you feel that? I just went, wow.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Wow. Wow. That was like, whoosh. That's what's out there. Wow. That was so cool.
Yeah, and it's beautiful because that's one of your gifts that you can share with the whole planet, all beings on the planet, directly, indirectly, energetically, when you're in actual, talking connection, and let them know that, again, the road, the path of judgment and retribution is not a path that will heal anything or get them, where we all want to go, which is expansion and evolution to, our highest frequency that we can hold.
Yes, absolutely. And just the grace of our being source, of our being original, of that being the truth of who we are. all of that other stuff is not true. You know, we've existed and seen ourselves through this lens that has been sad distortion. And, you know, everybody, you know, I heard somebody talking about natural law and how in ourselves, in our own beings, we know the truth. We know not to do harm. We know,
right.
You know, we know these things innately, and it's just all the BS mind stuff that's put us in a place of, you know, of inauthenticity.
Right.
And so, you know, being in my heart space, having this conversation, speaking of the truth of who we are and the power and the love that is us and comes to us and moves through us, I mean, that anybody, when you have this conversation, will be like, yeah, ooh, yeah, that
right.
feels
right.
good, right. So
yeah, because it's words and toning which carry a frequency vibration, and then it's also both your and my energies that carry a vibration, and people can pick up to that and tune into it. And some who aren't ready to hear it or still are lit up by it will either choose not to listen, or they won't even come into contact with it. Even if someone says, hey, this is interesting, listen to that, it won't work, the player won't work or whatever it is. And that's another example of the neighborhood thing from an energy thing as well.
Yes, I can see that.
Yeah. And the other thing too is that even if you don't, I wanted to just carry that thought further because something else was flowing into me when you were talking. If you personally, if you're having a direct conversation, or here where you're having a conversation with me and it's out, we're putting it intentionally out to the energy frequency vibration. So it will be posted, but also we've opened up this envelope of energetic frequency to send it out there intentionally. And when you're doing it that way, but also just by the clarity and the complete heart-centeredness that you hold from a direct experience of knowing, of integrating and moving through and flowing past those experiences that could be termed in a lot of linear words and phrases that are going to come up really soon on the whole, global stage with what's going to be revealed. But because of that, you actually have the ability to transmit those frequencies, those keys and codes of compassion, and keys and codes and triggers of that ability for others, if they choose to let it line up with their own receptors, their energetic frequency receptors within their being, to match up with those codes that you can transmit out, for them to have an easier time and have more grace in doing that for themselves, for things that may have happened in their own life and their own direct experience, and then for things that they're now encountering as things get revealed. So that's really wonderful.
Yes. Very, very well put.
It's fun to be creator beings and to know it and play it.
Yes, it is. Yes, and when you put it so beautifully, as far as the compassion and putting it out there as an actual energetic frequency, and I've done a lot of reading and so on about quantum mechanics, and it was a very it was like an aha thing for me when I came across the perspective of life as an energetic experience. I mean, it is, because first of all, it is what it is, and it brings true to the core of my being. But it just brought together it helped me connect a lot of dots, because I've read the Bible and studied scripture and tried to live, a good life by that as a rule. And I've also been very open-minded. When I left my Christian experience, I did a lot of reading and research and had conversations with people of all faiths and people who didn't believe, and science and everything. And I've kind of tied some things together in just able to see the truth in a lot of different religious ideas or whatever through the lens of the truth, through the lens of science, of vibration and energy. And so when I look at life through the truth of us all being energetic and vibration and connected, not separate, and the ebb and flow of it, and the what do you call it? The dissonance when you get into the
Right.
neighborhood where fear is. It's like,
Right.
all the little different pockets of energy flowing or stopped or whatever. And so it made things kind of click for me as far as the power that I have, that I can work with to make my life better, to put positive things into my mind, to spend time in meditation, clearing my mind and feeling into the energy of my heart, and articulating through the truth of things that I come to know, and intentionally bless and help and put things out there that will raise the spirit, so to speak, and soothe the angst.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
So,
yeah, and it's nice that you can keep flowing that within yourself, and then because you are in that heart space, it's a gift you just keep continually giving for yourself and all around you, and then you can send it out, on a global and universal scale, actually. Why limit yourself?
well, what's funny about that is that I'm blessed to work in a place where I can sit at my desk and listen. I can listen to you and all kinds of stuff, and I do every day. And I do bookkeeping and different types of work. So, but I'll sit there and I'll be listening to something, and it will resonate with me, and I'll get the goosebumps from head to toe. And sometimes I just close my eyes and take a deep breath, and I imagine like sparklers just blowing out the top of my head, like out into it forever, infinity. So I'm sitting there like with a little blowhole out the top of my head, shooting out light sparks.
I like it. Now, does anybody at work, if they come by, do they notice? Oh, that's just Sparky Jeanie. She's expanding again.
No, but I've had several times in my life where people like have literally physically seen me glow, and they'll be like, "You're glowing. Are you okay?" And it's really funny because sometimes I can see it myself. It's like, wow, that is so cool. I mean, like, they say all pregnant women glow, but it's just the idea of getting so giddy and light in your heart that you literally can see a glow. It's just the coolest.
Yes, absolutely. You're absolutely right. And some people will listen to this and start to pick it up or fully pick it up right now, and some people will go, well, I want to do that. How do I do that? And it comes from within.
Yes.
Noticing the act of going, well, wow, that sounds cool. I want to do that. How do I do that? Is a good. It's you giving voice to letting that come on and turn fully on within you, and then noticing, being quiet, and choosing how you're flowing your energy will help you get there and do it very quickly.
Yes, absolutely. And it's interesting because it is coming faster. And the choosing it's more of a noticeable immediate shift,
Yes.
Instead of a gradual, let's like get into gear really slowly, climb up. Now we're talking 0 to 60 in 2 seconds or whatever.
Yeah. Or maybe a nanosecond, right?
Right.
And remember it. As we talked about a little while ago, that what seems fast right now, but in the next 24 hours, or maybe a smidge more or less, depending on how you're feeling the what's going on. It's going to jump to a quantum jump again, so a very demonstrable, very maybe it's 0 to Mach 5. In a shaving of ice.
Oh wow! Oh boy!
Kind of a thing. You'll feel that internally. You'll see it externally. You'll feel it and notice it and experience it directly from your thought process to something that's nattering away in your head. It's literally those things will pop into physicality. Or an expression of those will pop into physicality almost instantaneously.
Wow.
So it's nothing to be afraid of. What it is this is, it's on. And I've been saying for a couple of months now, it's time to step up, it's time to be all in, it's time to wake up. And this is kind of, that was the ramp of getting on the highway, and now we're on the multiverse super highway, and we're speeding right along. So choices, choosing what we want and visualizing that. And the same thing works if people are holding the thought of, well, I wonder when something's going to happen, or I'm waiting for this. And it's almost like you're super gluing yourself in a vehicle and a lane within that vehicle, or, that the vehicle's traveling on, to use this metaphor, and the roads that you can or cannot drive on of waiting. So you may be passing a lot of interesting scenery, but you're always waiting, because that is what you're holding as what your creation is. You may not be doing that intentionally, but you'll start to notice that how come those people are getting off, and going to that cool park or playground or whatever it is, and I seem to be just driving by waiting.
Yes. That's really good, in that just kind of brought up, I have something that I've invested in that I'm sure a lot of people that may be on this call or listening to this later may have done as well. Mm-hmm. And it's been a community of waiting. When can I cash in my investment?
Right.
And I personally have kind of pulled back my attention from the everyday calls and whatnot to rest and trust that if and when I'll be ready and, it'll happen, and okay, great. But the reality of it is I've lived my life at this certain level of financial existence, I guess you could say. Uh-huh. And I've not had a big number in my bank account, but we've always had everything we've needed. Uh-huh. And so how I view life personally is that the treasure is within. It's within my own heart and soul. It's within, the relationships that I have allowed myself to have, with being myself first and then with others in my experience. And having peace and joy and happiness and laughter and all of that, from my perspective, I am the wealthiest woman in the world. Yeah. And that is the true wealth of my experience. And if this other, financial stuff happens, that's just gravy. Right. And allowing myself to relish in those moments of having my grown daughter sit on my lap and drop a tear on my face. I mean, that was priceless.
Absolutely.
That was so precious. And that's the stuff of life. And I feel like the luckiest girl in the universe, in the world, in the galaxy, everywhere. Because I have that, that love and that just awesome love. And it's in there. And it's in there for all of us. And those are the true riches. And
yes, and you can expand. You're absolutely right, and it's such a beautiful feeling to feel you expressing that and sharing that. And one of the things that firmly popped in, it was a picture. When you said I'm pretty certain I know what you speak of. So you you mentioned the waiting for this to happen, and as you release that, and it's a firmly standing kind of that possibility. Well, that rolls around, great, no problem. But there's no waiting for it one way or the other, right? You actually expand your, to use the term you use, your riches, your richness, because now that really was a big highway artery that was draining energy off of your creation energy highway. I'm not sure why I'm on a road metaphor, but there we go. You know what I mean? So it's pulling a lot,
Yes.
if it was a waterway, we'd be shunting a lot of water flow, and the energy, that the water creates, to move for movement, would be pulling it away from your full flow of that energy in the water flow, as that analogy, to move forward. So when you let all those different things, whatever they are, of waiting or kind of that holding pattern thing, you let them go. It doesn't mean give up per se on something. It just means let it go, and when it comes, and great. And when it comes, you'll know it, so you don't have to worry about missing it, because it'll show up. So it's right. You don't need to divert any more energy resources to that. But what it really does on an energetic level, on an emotional and mental level, and also on a physicality level for people, is that it lets them now have more of that flow of energy and focus, more bandwidth, to use a computer term, to really flow and see, okay, what else am I going to pluck out of the quantum and pull down into the physicality.
Yes. Something infinitely cooler.
Yeah.
Something way more fun.
And the resources and raw materials, whatever that may be, whatever shape or substance or, actual descriptor would fit, whatever that may be, will then pop into your experience. And it could be, the representation of value, which we right now call money, and in this country we call, dollars. It could be some kind of land, or it could be, it could be a whole host of things, but they are very tangible and have a real physicality to them that you can then create, use those as resources and raw materials, so to say, and use them to create other things that you want to play with. And that's the game. I mean, the game is that you're always creating. It's when we come up with that siphoning off of energy from our minds spinning, or the doubts or the old programming coming to fore, then that's when it gums up the works and we say, well, this doesn't work, or this is baloney, or whatever that phrase is, or phrases. Sometimes we heap a lot of them on. We can bypass all that, and that's the how. The how comes from us, like everything else, and doing it where there's flow and not struggling to do something or trying to do something. Trying, basically, that energy of that has, it's been, I use kind of the euphemism to say it's been outlawed simply because it is not a match at all. So it doesn't work even a smidge. It has the opposite of the intended result that we wanted.
Well, you mean in the sense of, struggling out of the fear or lack or worry, and instead of going with the flow and, just taking inspired steps and trusting that whatever, you do is going to work out.
Well, yeah, well, not only that, but when a lot of times it's a notice for the next day, how many people say the word I'm trying, or I'm going to try, or I want to try, or I have tried, in various, you'll notice, oh my goodness, they're all saying what's going on. And it's a phrase that holds us in a space And it really is, it's a phrase that has an energetic result to it as the end result, so that you're always trying and never succeeding or never creating or never opening up the fruition of the conclusion that you want to come to. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, you know, I have a perfect example in my experience. I mean, I've been wanting to paint on canvas my whole life. And, you know, I'd say, I'm wanting to do this, or, you know, I'm going to do this. And it would always be something that I was going to do or wanted to do but never did.
Right.
And one day I said, well, you know, what am I waiting for? The universe, my universe provided an easel through my best friend, and I found these canvases at this store, and my son gave me some paint set for 1 year, and I looked around and said, well, I got stuff.
Right.
The space. I got the time. What am I waiting for? So I just did it. And so, yeah, so just doing it, just being in the moment, allowing myself to be and to have fun and to play, like we were talking.
To play.
I'm allowing myself to play, and it's like, well, you know, all of those worries and everything are just stories that and expectations of people or institutions that don't have to have anything to do with what I'm doing in this moment. In this moment, I want to play. So in this moment, I choose to play. In this moment, I allow myself to play, you know, and trust. Just have fun with it and trust that everything's going to continue to be fun.
Right. And it has been. That's been happening for you.
Yes, it has. Very much so.
Yeah. It's really that beautiful and that simple. We make it complex and gum it up, and you know, Big Jeanie and Big BZ and Big all the other rest of us are going, okay, we love you, and we realize you have a proclivity to doing that, and anytime you want to stop, we'll really celebrate with you even more.
Right.
And expand more, because there is no judgment, there is no pushing. There's just love, and you know, it takes on a higher sparkle quotient when that love is, that we're allowing that love to be within ourselves completely. And you spoke of that beautifully earlier. So yeah, very wonderful.
Yes. And that is it. I mean, that is really the simple truth of it. Love is within us. Love is always flowing to us, in us, through us. And I have seen how I got in my own way most of my life. And through consistent, persistent, intentional, you know, seeking of truth and being open, I finally was able to give myself permission to play. I finally worked through all the shoulds and this and that, and finally said, why am I not letting myself do this? Why am I worrying? Why don't I just let go and enjoy? What am I waiting for?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You know, what am I waiting for?
Yeah, it's wonderful. Well, and I so appreciate it, and I know that so many others appreciate the two things that you've posted already, and we're all looking forward to more. So,
well, thank you.
And I appreciate you coming on and having this conversation. I think these kinds of conversations are fun for me in the moment with the being that I'm having them with, and they really are fun and a great way to play for others to come in and play, because it's not linear. It's it's multidimensional, so they can play wherever it lands with them and fully swim with us in that playing. So thanks for that.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm loving it very much.
Good. All right. Well, you have a great night, and I look forward to emails soon from you saying, hey, this is what I have a feeling actually there's a big one going to jump out from you today. So.
All right. I'll get on it.
So I will talk to you later. Much love, and we'll see you later.
All right. Love you all. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.